Hey, this is your host, Droid Bishop, and today's sit down, I welcome synthwave artist out of Guatemala City, Outrunner. We talk about his early days being immersed in influence through his uncle's rock band. We touch upon a mutual love and respect for a number of guitar players who have influenced and shaped our musical journey thus far. We break down his DAW-less recording and performance setup in his home studio, and he shares insights on how the synthwave community came together to help him out of a dark time. Let's get to it with Outrunner. Welcome, Andre. It's good to have you here. How's it going?
Thank you, James. It's a pleasure, man. I really appreciate the time, the space, the invitation as well.
Of course, man. I've enjoyed connecting with you over this past year, I guess, or half year, and thought we should get to know each other a little more on the musical playing field. So I'm just going to jump right in and ask you about your early days with music, what, you know, in your household, with your family, what they brought, and kind of where you think your journey started here.
Yeah, for sure. Well, my journey started pretty much since I was born. Like my family's dad's side, it's they're all musicians. My uncles used to have a rock and roll band, so I remember there's a story that I was probably like 5 years old, and I went to my uncle's gig, and one of my eardrums just blew out. So
oh man.
I've been blessed to be born into rock pretty much early on. Picked up the guitar at around 10, and just kind of went with it. It's I always knew that music was going to be a thing for me. It's very weird to explain, but I remember like all my adolescence just saying that out loud. Like, I know music is going to be something for me.
Yeah,
so it's pretty much, yeah.
It's not weird to me at all because I feel the same way. But so the guitar was your first instrument. You started at 10, you said?
Yeah, I started at 10 with the guitar.
What kind of guitar was your first guitar?
Oh man, it was a Japanese Hondo guitar.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah, it was. My uncle gifted that to me, and it was my battle axe for many, many years, for sure.
That's nice, man. Would you remember what year that model was?
No, I would lie, but
it was from the 80s or something?
Yeah, definitely 80s. I'm guessing probably like 87 or something like that.
If this was a visual podcast right here, I'd flash up an image of that guitar. But anyone can just look it up and know what we're talking about. But yeah, that's pretty cool.
You would imagine like James Hetfield carrying one of those probably, so
of course.
Kind of those shapes. But that pretty much got me into electric guitar, and I always played acoustic as well. So, it was both at the same time. Self-taught, never had a teacher. This was probably when we have cassettes and CDs were just coming out, so no guitar tabs, which was pretty helpful to develop an ear to,
Yeah.
And, probably mid-20s, I picked up playing keyboards and stuff.
Well, let's hold on. We'll get to that because I want to, like, when you first picked up the guitar and you'd been around your uncle's rock band and I'm sure lots of other music in the house, like, what kind of stuff were you first learning on the guitar? What was interesting you at 10 years old?
Van Halen pretty much all the time. I still have the book, and it's like a 200-page guitar tab book about all of Van Halen's greatest hits and stuff. So that was pretty much my Bible at that time.
Which, interestingly enough, I've heard some of those tabs are completely wrong of what he would be playing technically. But I don't know. As long as the sausage comes out, it's fine.
Yeah, I guess at that point was just, because when you start learning a new instrument and nothing that you play sounds good, right? So when you're trying to make music and trying to learn something and some kind of tune starts developing, it's very inspiring. So, Van Halen was pretty much the band that I really enjoyed. Eddie was, I would say he was my my biggest influence at that time, and kind of wanting to get Eruption down, was just like my daily bread, pretty much.
No, I'm a huge Van Halen fan too. So whenever something pops up here that is of interest to both parties, I want to dig a little deeper here.
For sure.
Off the top of your head, what's your favorite Van Halen song?
Oh man,
just go.
I think
just go.
Ain't Talking About Love,
bro. That's mine. That riff. That riff is so simple yet so. It's like, well, who else came up with that? Nobody. And it seems very simple, arpeggiated kind of guitar chord riff. But man, I play that every day. No joke. On my guitar.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. And it's just such a good riff, man.
Man, and the kind of like the backstory to that track is so funny. Like they wanted to make a mock-up out of a punk song, and they did the track. And it's like, it's just amazing.
Well, we could do a whole show on Van Halen, which we won't right now, but their early sound was super. There was some punkiness to it to me, and not even talking about the song Atomic Punk, just that, but yeah, I think you know what I mean. There was kind of this like street level punkiness to this super technically gifted band. So a pretty interesting combo there.
Yeah, for sure. I totally agree on that.
Was there anything else your parents, your other family members brought to the table musically outside of maybe, traditional rock sense?
Yeah, so like my uncles brought all the 80s glam rock into my life.
Yeah.
My dad was more of a jazz player.
Nice.
I don't play any jazz. I'm not that gifted, but I love listening to jazz, and probably my vinyl collection is all due to my father. So
for sure.
He definitely brought all the classical and jazzier and more technical aspect of music into my DNA, I guess.
Yeah. Do you think that you mentioned you don't technically play in those styles, but do you feel like it influenced you in some manner, some path of your appreciation or just how you think about music?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, it's kind of like in synthwave, it's kind of hard to put some jazziness to it. I know like you can always do everything. There's really no boundaries. But I do feel like at least my drum approach is always as like a jazz drummer kind of philosophy,
Interesting.
Yeah, and I just love jazz, man, to be honest. It's just something that I really connect with for some weird reason.
Oh, it's not weird to me at all. I think, I like all music. And like I said, Van Halen, I think they're pretty much the greatest American rock and roll band ever. I love jazz, and getting back to what you're saying, synthwave can be boxy. It can box things in, and some people out there only want the same sandwich over and over and over. But I mean, if someone knows my catalog in and out, I'm a huge jazz guy and Steely Dan fan and fusion, and I try to throw things like that and switch it up. And it kind of leads me to a point here. I noted you do this in several songs, but let's just specifically talk about your track, The Fallout, and how it just kind of goes into this like metal break.
Yeah.
Kind of like a doom, doom, doom. And it came out of nowhere, and obviously I've been following you for a bit now and kind of know your sensibilities from your Instagram videos, and so it wasn't surprising to me that you yourself, Andre, put this in a song, but just like, wow, like that's what interests me, to kind of do things outside of the box. And I just want to hear, how you came about to kind of break rules, maybe do some things a little differently. Like, what was your approach here?
All right, so that's a great question, and I'll kind of give you a backstory because, I've been guitar player in rock bands. My last band was a funk band, which I absolutely love.
Nice.
And, we started kind of migrating into like a synth funk kind of sort of thing.
Yeah.
So I really got into synthesizers and all of this. Then the pandemic hit, and, I was pretty much at a point where I needed to make music, but I was unable to get other musicians involved. So, the first thing that my mind thought was, okay, just get a drum machine and start putting things together by yourself. Just a side note, I was a producer. Like, I dedicated myself to producing bands and had a full recording studio. So, putting things together was always easy for me.
Nice.
But back on point, I started making like space rock, I guess. And I never really heard the term synthwave before. This was probably like, I don't know, a bit before the pandemic. And I just kind of went with it, and I really loved how everything just kind of gelled together. Then you fast forward a bunch of years, and I went through all sorts of electronic stages, being melodic techno, house, and you name it, nothing ever clicked. And I would just got to a point where a friend told me like, hey man, like, why don't you just make synthwave? And I'm like, that sounds cool. What the hell is that? And and it's funny, man. It's funny because this was probably like 5 months before I released this album that you're talking about. So
this must be 2022, 23 that you're kind of talking with your buddy about synthwave for the first time?
Yeah, and I started digging into synthwave, and the sound just felt very at home with me. It was a very weird sensation because I felt like this was the sound that has been on my heart and on my head for a long time. And I didn't even knew that it was an actual thing. So I immediately understood that synthwave was kind of the place I wanted to be. And since I had no real knowledge or, a school of the go-tos or the OGs on the genre, I kind of just did my thing and the point I'm trying to get is rock was what came naturally to me, and sticking that into like the cliche synthwave was the struggle I had at first. So, I started making all of these tracks, and the metal and the rock parts, they just came easy. But the way I needed to find a way to integrate those into, I guess, synthwave typical sort of track, so people would kind of tell, oh, okay, like he's a synthwave artist. And that whole first album is just weird in that way.
Well, I mean, it makes perfect sense. Trying to, like we were saying, break the rules, I guess, if a genre has them, and
yeah.
I mean, I just found it interesting and loved hearing that, and it kind of it spoke to me as some decisions that I like to make. And for anyone listening out there, you can hate me or love me for saying this, but there's a lot of stuff that sounds the same, and like I don't care for that kind of music. And every artist I listen to in every genre usually has something that's like very identifiable or something about them. And I give you credit for coming into sometimes, and maybe at that point, a little stagnant scene of like a bunch of cliches, a lot of stuff sounding very similar. And you come in with these ideas of mixing, more rock and metal things and a fusion of music. And I think it works well. And obviously people are connecting with what you're doing. So I salute you, my friend.
Thank you, man. That, it really means a lot, especially coming from you. And it's appreciated, because I will admit that for the first year this project came out, I was always hesitant and nervous because I didn't know if people would accept it, There is some very generic stuff. I'll say that as well. There's amazing artists. But I've always been the kind of person that, wants to make something that's unique or identifiable in a way.
Yeah. Or else what's the point, right? What's the point of like just having too much of the same thing, filling space, suffocating the energy of the earth, you know?
Yeah, especially coming from a guitar background where, having your tone be an identifier of yourself is something that we all kind of want to achieve, right? Like, you listen to a guitar solo and you can say, oh, like that's Slash, or that's Van Halen getting back on point. So I guess that just translates, on a new level to me, I guess.
Hey everybody, if you're enjoying these chats so far, hit that subscribe button so we can keep this thing going and get the artists you want to hear about to come on this show. I appreciate your support. So your first album came out in 2023, and you just released your second album just a few months ago, right? 2025.
Yeah.
And I want to talk about, in my opinion, just a huge leap in production and like you finding this kind of it seems like the first album is what you're saying, like you're coming into this new kind of scene, trying to bring some influences. That's what you come out with, and it's awesome. But then you have some time and you're kind of finessing these things, and I just noticed a huge jump in production. Like the mixes were solid, everything on the first one, but just they were even better. The sound was more concise and consistent. It was its own. It like had become Outrunner by then, if that makes sense. So like talk me through this. If I'm on the same page with you right now.
No, absolutely. And I think if you take whatever artist, there's always a beauty in watching listening to the evolution of the artist.
Yeah.
Sometimes the evolution is crap,
Bro, just go listen to my early stuff, and we can talk about crap and growing flowers in the garden. So, but you're all good, bro.
No, I mean, like some artists like really take a bad turn in my point of view, and their new stuff is just like they're just a sellout, and they but that's a different topic. So to your question is, so there's definitely an evolution. Also, making videos for Instagram kind of started pointing me into like a very specific direction. I would say at first it was a struggle, and then I guess my brain just understood what my heart wanted to. Let me rephrase this. Like, my mind already knows at this point like which sounds I want and how they will work together properly for what I want to do.
Yeah.
In the first album, it was a struggle to understand what synthwave was, and I wanted to learn like the typical sounds so I could kind of have a resemblance but always be original. And I think the difference is that I was trying very hard at first, and now it's natural.
Yeah.
Because I understand it, so I don't have to fight with, it's just pure inspiration, and I guess the pieces just fall in their own place. I also, like you, kind of refined your production taste. So now it's not a matter of having 1,000 layers. It's just understanding what sound will work better for what part of the track.
Yeah. And in that sense, like, do you also work with templates, or do you have any like mix sessions set up that you can easily kind of work within these parameters and kind of have a more consistent sound? Or how is your workflow in that area?
Yeah, so I went to recording school many moons ago, and I was a Pro Tools hardcore user. I kept refining my template. Then I finally migrated into Ableton, fell in love with the interface and everything.
Yeah.
I'm a hardware user, so pretty much, Ableton allows me to record my MIDI and then just perform it on my hardware and get it back to mixing. So I definitely have a template. I keep, fine-tuning it pretty much every day. Yeah. I updated it, I improved stuff, I discovered new stuff. So I would say, and I don't know if this is going to sound like, oh man, like you're crazy, or like I feel the same like you do, but I can pretty much get a track recorded and mixed on an afternoon, because my template it's very advanced at this point. I have a lot of stuff happening, and I think like that kind of cycles back to what I was saying before, that my brain already knows how to make the pieces fall where they need to fall.
Yeah. No, it makes perfect sense. I'm similar, and certain tracks maybe, or certain things I might be working on, I can do in a day or whatever with mix and all that, and because of things I've set up. And that, but like if I feel like really being a composer, that's not going to take a day. Do you know what I mean? Like if I want to dig deep into like the search for like these melodies and chords and different things, but it kind of leads me back to another point. Is I kind of asked this too because you're popping out these reels on IG, and they always sound great and consistent, but different. Like I just had a feeling like he must have some sort of template set up at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I do, and it's my usual template that I always have. Like my latest reels, I've been just jamming with DAW-less instruments. I don't know how else to call it. Like there's no computer involved, but I guess being a recording engineer, just you're always super technical about that stuff.
Yeah.
So I always work a very long time to getting the sound down to the teeth, and then I just it's very easy for me to just pop something new and have it pretty much already done.
Yeah.
I always master my the audio for my Instagram videos, but without a template, I would be pulling my hair pretty much every single time.
For anyone that doesn't know what we're talking about, a template is a session or something in your recording program where you've kind of set up similar instruments and sounds ready to go, so you can write and compose different music on top of it, which some might think that's weird, or like, oh, what do you mean you're not making like a new song? And I would just think like if rock bands could do this back in the day, like I love a rock album that sounds like the same drum sound all the way through, and like a classic rock album, and if they could be doing that back then, they would be.
Yeah.
So
for sure, and I'll bring a little bit more clarity with my template. It's more a mixing template than sound template,
for sure,
if that makes sense.
Yeah, and that was just a broad strokes for any civilian out there, but and I'm similar. I don't rely heavily on templates to a degree, even to a fault. Sometimes I could work quicker, but I'm just like, I want to try. Just like you, I'm consistently growing and learning as an engineer and mixer. Like that's not my forte and background as it is with you, which shows in your production and your mixes, by the way, which is great.
Thanks.
But we're always learning, and I'm like, maybe this template needs to be refreshed over my skill elevation this year, or whatever it may be. So like, do you ever, you said you're tweaking those pretty much every day, right?
Yeah. I mean, I work on something else. Unfortunately, I don't make a living out of music, which is kind of sad, but
not yet, at least.
Yeah, exactly. But on my free time, I definitely spend a lot of time watching compressors, watching tutorials about something. So I'm always learning new technical stuff and trying out new stuff. And I go back to a track and it's like, oh man, like this is really cool. I need to have this on my template. And, I just updated it with that stuff. And funny enough, my template, I'm not adding more stuff. I'm actually taking stuff out.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's one of the biggest lessons as a composer, producer, and engineer is that less is more.
Oh, it's true. Well,
it's a hard
Yngwie
lesson.
Malmsteen would disagree, and more is more to him in his quotate. But he gets a pass on that one. But you're right.
Yeah.
I mean, less is more in so many ways. Just make your less really good.
Exactly. Yeah.
And then you won't have to add all this more crap that like is way harder to mix at the end too. And it's like, you know, how many fucking sparkles do we need on top? And I don't know, just make the melodies good and the drums fat. Less is more, just make it all good.
Yeah, I think it's easier said than done, and that's for sure. But yeah, that's been my philosophy for many years now at this point.
I wanted for you to kind of dig deeper into, as you call it, your DAW-less rig and your studio setup. Kind of playing things live, like analog, if you will, analog to digital. And it's just cool to see your setup. And I just want to, like, you know how you kind of put it all together and what some of those pieces are and your favorite go-tos.
All right, so I would break down this into two sections, and it's been a couple of years getting to this point, and I'll give a big shout out and love to Derek Midnight Fury because he's helped me figure out a lot of stuff with this.
Nice.
So on my studio, on the studio, you know, where I sit down and I say I will produce a track. I have quite a bit of gear that's connected with USB or MIDI. So, you know, I get inspired and I can just play and perform on the keyboards. The MIDI gets recorded. I can fine tune whatever I need to. And then I can commit the audio to the session and I can produce linearly, right?
Yeah.
And I have like all the freedom I need. I can put risers and like really get into it and be technical. But I guess that's just the typical scenario. But when I started the project, like I really wanted to be able, if I ever perform live, which is something that I'm really looking forward to, is being able to play my tracks without the need of a computer whatsoever.
Yeah.
So my DAW-less rig pretty much consists of, I'll try to be as clear as I can. They are boxes, some are drum machines, some are samplers, and I have like a mixer template, like a performance dynamic mixer. I don't even know how to call that thing. It's called the Octa track. So it's a very weird, very special machine. And pretty much what I can do is I can play back my tracks, I can play the guitar on top of it, I can add the synths I have in my DAW-less setup, but I can also, because everything is just synced, I can add extensions to all of the tracks. So I could pretty much kind of go on a, you know, kind of like a dance fiesta after the track is finished and
like a break
integrate
extension.
melody. Yeah. So I can have a lot of fun and improvise completely live with all of the tracks, or I can just perform the track as is.
So it's like really Ableton Live.
It's like Ableton Live, but with a lot of restrictions, pretty much, and no screen whatsoever. So it's kind of like there's always room for error, big margin for error. Yeah. But it's very fun because you kind of get nervous if you screwed up and you can totally miss out parts. But it's fun. It makes it interesting for me.
It looks fun, and it adds this other element, like you're saying. Also, what you're saying, it's terrifying to me personally to kind of maybe set that up live. And I was just up there working with all these boxes, and even my computer scares the hell out of me up there. So. Side tangent, I just did a run, and on the road, I started not using my computer and just kind of figuring out how to get my tracks and anything just directly through the system, and it worked out to the way I wanted. But yeah, I was just kind of over the computer and relying on that, and whether or not it was gonna be my friend that night or not. So I feel you, man, to go DAW-less here.
Yeah. To be honest, that's the main reason I want to be DAW-less when I'm performing live, because relying on a computer, like, it's failed on me on the past. And you know, it would suck to have people paying tickets to see you live, and you're at the middle of a song, and the computer breaks down, and it's like that's unacceptable.
Yeah.
Like, I know it's not our fault, but you know, I feel powerless. At least with machines, like, they can always misbehave. You know, technology is technology, but
Yes.
I feel that I have a little bit more control over it to some degree.
Yeah, and you know, touching on what we're saying, I am an analog rocker and a modern robot as well, and I'm fine with like laptops and tracks, and I'm not some weird dinosaur guy being like, it's got to be live, and that's a live show. There are things like, you know, I want to go see Steely Dan or something play their shit and not have tracks, and they won't, and that's fine. But you know, what's your thought on this? And because if it was up to me, I'd have a full band playing with me. I'd never have a computer. Yeah. I would never have, like, I might have some tracks running maybe, but like a drummer and a keyboard player, some other people up there, like, that's what I want to do. Now, touring and everything is expensive, and it's hard to do things. I'm able to fly in with different bands and artists because it's just me and it works for them and blah blah blah. But like, what's your perception on this?
Honestly, the same. I'm just the same. Like, I would love to be able to have a drummer and I would say a bass player, but at this point, he would need to be a keyboard bass player.
Which is fine.
Unless he's Geddy Lee, but
well, that's the thing. Like, I don't care if someone's playing the bass parts on a keyboard. Like, someone's up there doing something and bringing energy to the stage, you know.
Yeah, so like that would be fantastic, but the way I have the setup right now is I built a synth pedal board. So I can pack my DAW-less thing on a keyboard back and just go, and it's just plug and go, you know? So I haven't performed a single gig without Runner, but I do have the vision, and I do want to make my life easier. I've gigged in the past a ton. I've traveled. I know the hassle of having, you know, needing to go through airports and stuff and carrying a bunch of equipment. So I try to make my life easier in that way. But, you know, if money wasn't a problem, if everything was perfect, I would love to have like a full-on band and just, you know, have that energy, because that's undeniable. The energy you get with other humans on stage, like, you cannot copy that at all.
Yeah, it's hard to take the rocker out of people, and you know, like you, and I'm just very eclectic with my musical taste, and I listen to so much more than just rock and metal. But like, I'm a metalhead.
Yeah.
You can't take that out of you. You know what I mean? Like, you're just like, if you were that or you're into that, that's like this thing that's inside you, and you just love, like, I love seeing a freaking drummer up there, man. I think that's the bare minimum. That's why I respect a lot of these cats out here. You know, I was just out with Time Cop, and you know, I've done shows with a bunch of synthwave and people who play with drummers, and some more people up there, and it's cool, it's exciting. So like, I want to be a part of that too, and more people should push for that, I feel.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You know, like, just watching the drummer, and you know that the downbeat is coming, you can both get in sync and just, I guess that if you're a musician, because I know that many synthwave producers or electronic producers, let's just better say like that, they probably don't have a musical background. They never played with other humans, and you know, they are not connected with that environment, that vibe, that energy that we're talking about. But you know, my background is completely different. So to me, it's weird not having another human there. You know, like, if I messed up, it's all on me. You know, it's not the drummer that missed his cue. I'm 100% with you in that, for sure.
Yeah, awesome, man. So I wanted to ask you about your decision in the beginning of Outrunner to don the mask, and then your decision to no longer, put this cover on. What was the mindset there? If you can walk me through this.
Yeah, okay. So if we go back to the beginnings of this conversation, I told you that a friend of mine approached me and said, like, hey, why don't you make synthwave? At this point, it was me and two other buddies. And the idea was to make a collective group where I would have my project, my friend would have his project, and we could join both of them together to have like one third project. Mm-hmm. So it was something very trippy, very cool. So I started brainstorming on the idea, and honestly, I really struggled with finding a name. But the one thing that we all agree on was we don't want anybody to know that this is us.
Yeah.
So what's the best way to do this is let's just get masks, and nobody will ever know it's us. And I love the idea. I started doing it, and probably like my first 20, 30 videos is me wearing the mask. But man, like performing with that thing, it's a fucking pain in the ass. Sorry for my French.
But it's a show for adults here.
Man, like my neck hurts. Probably like 10 minutes in, my back hurts, my neck hurts. I'm having trouble breathing. Like my vision starts getting foggy. I start messing up the notes, and it's completely unreliable.
Yeah.
So it just got to a point where I says like, okay, man, like, I want to do cool performances, and I guess it's just time to ditch the mask because it's becoming unbearable.
Yeah.
And that was pretty much it. Like, if at this point, I wouldn't put the mask on again. I think
it's
like
people
late, already
buddy.
know my face. It's too late. But that was the reason. Like I at first I didn't want anybody to know who I was, and if people enjoyed the music, that would be the win. But it's so uncomfortable, and so it just doesn't make any sense anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad I had to ask about that because I was the same way. Like the anonymity thing, I wanted to. We've talked about our love for Daft Punk, and like what else can you say? And like those are the best masked people ever, in my opinion. But but it was like what we were saying with being original, trying to do things different. It was like, how do I even do that? And there were some other people coming out around the time I was starting, 2012, 2013, that had masks or something similar. And it's like, man, I'm just gonna get lost in this. And I tried different things with like LED glasses live and whatever, but you can't be wearing things that like people in the crowd are showing up with either. You're like, all right, this isn't working.
Yeah.
And kind of when I was starting to get Magic Sword on my radar, and I was like, man, that's my family now, those guys, but it's like, all right, that's how you do it, and I can't do it, and they've done that, so I'll just show my face and just be me and let it be me. Because like when you see stuff like that and the energy someone's put into their anonymity and how it works, and the mythical story of it all, I'm just like, that is so much work, and I just want to compose here.
Yeah, no, exactly. And it's getting back on the originality thing, because at this point I knew nothing about synthwave. Like to me it was like, it's cool, it kind of makes sense, and as I step deeper into the community, I realized like, oh my god, like like this is an idea that's so burned at this point. I'm more original just showing my face than sticking up a cyberpunk mask at this point.
Yeah, and your style and like aesthetic and your videos, it's got its own thing, and it's cool, and your studio set up and the way that the lights are, and it's it's aesthetically pleasing, and yeah, like I get it, man. So whatever you're doing now, it's working. Don't overthink it. But I just wanted to touch upon that because and I'm sure many other people in this scene or electronic music have thought about how to put a freaking mask on.
No, it's a fair question because it really it was part of the branding at first. It was a big thing for sure. Like even the comic character that I have for the project, like he had the mask as well.
Yeah, I noticed that. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a thing for sure, but I'm glad it's not anymore.
This is a show about music, so I like to keep it musical. But I know you had a recent injury where you had shattered a bunch of bones in your jaw, and is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. The reason is still unknown. There was some high pressure and sugar and stuff, which I never had. It's weird. And I just collapsed, man, and fell entirely on my face and just shattered bones and teeth, and it's been quite the process. But man, like this community, it's beautiful, man. The way people have helped me kind of restored faith in humanity for me again.
Yeah, I mean, when this injury came about, there was like an influx of artists that put together a charity album for you to help with some of the costs and everything of the hospital and the recovery, and that must have been just something really special to kind of be a part of or be the reason for, even if it was a horrible beginning, a positive outcome maybe.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, it's not been fun, and bones still hurt. I cannot eat the way I used to eat, but you kind of get used to it, and it's very weird to say, but you get used to the pain.
Oh, I know.
But it's been way more positive than a negative experience. Like I would not go through it again, but feeling the support from people and people from all over the world just supporting it's mind-blowing, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean it's really cool when humans kind of step up and show the good side of what we can all be capable of, and I mean at least it was in your hands, right?
Yeah, of course. But I'll be forever grateful.
For sure. And shout out to anyone who was a part of that, and it's awesome to see that. And like, has this injury or the synthwave community, everything about this thing, like your recovery, how has this, if it has, changed or shaped your perception or your vision of music, what you're supposed to be doing here on the planet? Like, how are you feeling about it all?
It has definitely shifted my vision. You kind of get lost once you start getting back into the routine, but it's definitely changed me in many ways. And I was doing like space wave. Someone told me like what you do is space wave. I thought it was cool. And after the accident, like I definitely just felt that I needed to be more rocky again.
Yeah.
So it kind of has made my music a bit more aggressive. I mean, now it's all over the place. I probably have like my next 7 songs already done, and it's a mix of everything. But it definitely brought something in me that I want to be more aggressive with the sound when I can, which is weird, because you would say I would go chiller with it, but
I don't think it's weird.
I don't know, man. It is a life-changing experience in so many different layers. Spiritually, as a person, just being more conscious about people struggling as well, so yeah, it just shifted me in a ton of ways.
Yeah, I mean, that's interesting. It's not weird. I think the going aggressive, it sounded like to me, maybe you can clarify that, this major incident happens in your life that it could have gone worse, you know, or whatever. Like it's a weird situation, and it sounds like you were just kind of like, hey, I'm just gonna do what I kind of really want to do here, you know, and not really overthink what other people may want or what. Just kind of like, you know what, I'm glad I'm still here, and I'm gonna do what I want to do.
Yeah. I think the bottom line of it is like life is so fragile. So why overthink stuff? Just go with it. And I've been going with it more so than I was doing before.
Yeah,
definitely.
That's awesome to hear, and it's awesome to kind of share in that with you, because I'm kind of on a similar thing right now. It's like, just like you, when I started this, I didn't play any guitar on my stuff really. Not that you didn't, but like how our approach of wanting to, like, how do we work in this genre or whatever. And I just, you know, I mentioned my love of Daft Punk. I just kind of wanted it to be more electronic based, and I didn't know how to make the guitar not sound out of place or cheesy or whatever. I was in my head. And then just as the years go by and play more guitar in it, which that's what I do. That's my main instrument. I got paid years playing guitar for people. And I'm just kind of like, why am I not doing the best thing that I can do in these songs? And I'm just like freaking playing the guitar on all my tracks now, and even more so. And I'm working on just a full-blown guitar album right now, which is like, hey, if you don't like my guitar on the other stuff, don't even bother getting this one, because you're gonna hate it.
No, and that, you know, like that struggle, like I had that struggle with the first album actually. So I totally get you. But you know, like your conclusion is the same that average. Like, why would I take out the best part of my musicality out of my music? Like, it doesn't make sense.
No, and I think when you take those risks or whatever, if it's a risk, it kind of has better rewards when it pays off. If you're like, hey, this was me being real, and people like it, so that's even more rewarding.
Yeah, for sure. And, you know, also kudos to you, because I feel like the sounds that you've been doing with the guitar and the music, like they really, really work together.
Oh, I appreciate that.
So I really enjoy your tones, you know, and like all the things that you're doing, because it's very not conventional as well.
Well, I appreciate that, and it's nice to hear that I might be accomplishing something of my vision, because like we've been saying, originality or having your own sound, like, you know, you can turn it on and be like, oh, that's this player, or that's, and those were the ones that were set apart. And I've been searching for tones forever, and I just in the last couple of years maybe feel like, okay, I'm on to this thing that's kind of mine. Like, yeah, it's a lot of different Guitar Hero dudes mixed into maybe one guy. But I don't know, together, when you just do what you really want without trying to think too much of what other people are going to think or expect, I just feel like it's a beautiful, magical, musical moment can happen for you and the listener.
Yeah, absolutely. I think John Mayer said this, but when you try too hard to be someone else, you end up finding yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a very strange phrase, but it's so true.
While we're on this, because I wanted to talk about this, and like, who are your go-to guitar players? Who are your early influences? Who are still your guys? Who are maybe some new guys that have come up on your radar and you've discovered? Like, let's talk about that for a moment.
All right, so I guess if you would ask anybody that listens to my music, they would say Gilmour.
For sure.
Which Pink Floyd is my favorite band, but to be honest, David Gilmour was my biggest influence just at one point in my life. I would say probably my favorite guitar player today would be Guthrie Govan.
Oh, well, he's like technically the best player on the planet, and there's no argument on that.
Yeah, but he's always so musical and technical. But you know, like
He's a beast.
but you know, like there are people that shred, and I have like huge respect for that. I was not blessed with speed, but Govan just has it all, and like you know, like he inspires me every time that I listen to his music. Like I get depressed, but I get inspired at the same time. I would probably say one of my biggest influences is Jimmy Page.
Yeah.
For sure.
So far we have like the exact same list, but it's all good.
Yeah, you know, like Hendrix, John Frusciante is one that I really, really love.
Nice. That mixes it up.
Yeah, I mean, and that's you know that's why I said that I was like I'm huge into funk, which I really want to start bringing into my synthwave stuff because I really miss that part of me, you know, of my musical side. But I guess all the classics, man. You know, Eric Clapton. Probably the greatest players from 70s and 80s are just parts of my influence, to be honest.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like we have very similar influences from that era, at least. Gilmore, you know, it's like you're talking about not being blessed with speed. That dude is the prime example of like how you can be one of the greatest players ever without having speed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And he is a less is more guy, and that guy is like, I don't know. I can't say enough. Pink Floyd's one of my favorite bands as well, and I just feel like I can hear these things in your playing. Like, wow, we must like the same people. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, absolutely.
And Jimmy Page, I love Jimmy Page, and just like touching on that Guthrie thing, huge influence in me as well, and just kind of like dude's ultimate technician, but he has like feel too. He's another. I don't even know how to describe him, because if you really know guitar in and out, which I personally think that I do, whether or not I can play in and out like everyone, I know it. I understand like what is taste, what is feel, what you know, all these boxes that people have to check. Oh, does he have feel? Is his time good? Is he a good writer? Dude checks every box. Every box. You know? So like I don't know what's happening there.
Yeah, he's not human.
No.
I think we can just you know, he's not human. Like that guy is on a whole different level.
Yeah.
And I do understand all the boxes that you mentioned, and you know, to me, feel and rhythm are probably the biggest ones.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's kind of my focus, at least when I approach guitar solos, is like, you know, I tend to stick to instrumental music, so I try to make my guitar as singable as possible, you know.
Yeah.
But then you have someone like Van Halen, and like he has feel, you know, and he has crazy runs.
He's got one of the best feels, man. His swing shuffle pocket. Whoo.
Yeah.
Dude rips.
Yeah. Then you have like Jimmy Page, which is, you know, he's a bit more sloppy.
Exactly. But, you know, his songs, everything he's done is like magical, or most of it.
Yeah, it's just amazing.
I had a point on that because you mentioned Gilmore, but like, you know, I was listening to a bunch of your stuff and I'm like, dude, does this dude listen to Alan Parsons at all? Because there's just and someone asked me that recently, like at a show, like, do you listen to Alan Parsons, some of your licks? I'm like, I do. I mean, I listen to that kind of Floyd Alan Parsons connection, and I just felt like I heard it there somewhere in you.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's definitely there, and I feel like that's what my uncles kind of gave me, you know, growing up. All of this 80s music, late 70s, 80s music that is just, for some reason, it just sticks to your DNA and it just feels natural. And, you know, sometimes you play something or you listen to something and it's like, oh, wow, like this has a connection with me for some reason. some people have mentioned like some references that I honestly never listened to in my life, but then I kind of go back and I research and I feel like, oh yeah, like I can definitely hear the connection with this, and it's so funny.
Yeah, it is interesting.
Yeah, I guess it's just a DNA, or you know, it's in us.
Do you have interest in furthering your composition path, like into scoring, maybe games, movies? Do you ever think about this stuff?
All the time. I actually scored one movie last year.
Nice.
It hasn't come out yet, but I would definitely love to get into scoring for games and movies. Like, I would say that's the dream job, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree.
Yeah.
Other than I've been used to doing what I want to do and not taking notes from anyone. And you know, you have to do. It's not your project. You got to do what other people want you to do, and sometimes that can be challenging. What's your level of control freakness? You know, like, do you like collaborating with other people? Do you? I can be challenging sometimes. I find it challenging. Where do you lie with this?
I am extremely OCD. I am an extreme perfectionist. I try not to be a pain in the ass when I'm collaborating with other people.
But fail.
I do love to collaborate. I mean, I do love collaborating because I find that, you know, the tracks will evolve to a place that I never thought they would go, and that's always fantastic to listen to. But I've been in situations, you know, where I feel like the other person just maybe did too much, and I need to find the kind words to kind of tune it down.
Yeah. Those words don't exist, man.
Yeah, I know it's difficult, man. It's difficult.
You could be handing someone $100 bill as you tell them the nicest way to change their chords, and they'll ghost you and not return your emails.
Yeah, but I mean, at the end of the day, if you're collaborating with someone, you need to find a middle ground. Like, both parties need to be happy, and both parties need to feel, you know, like what they did or they're putting out is worth it. So, you know, if I feel that something can improve, I won't keep my mouth quiet, because, you know, it's for the better of the track, and I wouldn't, you know, I would expect the same with me, to be honest.
Yeah.
But I think I've been fortunate to, you know, not be in that situation in a very long time.
Like, what are we doing this for if it's not the attempt to make the best song someone's ever heard? Everyone fails at that every day, probably, but like, I'm out to make the best thing that someone could be listening to at some point.
Yeah.
And I don't think a lot of people are actually in it for that reason. I don't know if it's today or if it's always been that way, but criticism, like, people don't like to hear anything, and I want things to a standard, and you know, like, I'm like, one of my favorite bands is like Queen, and it's like, yo, if we ain't trying to like hit some shit here, like, that's like gonna mean something, what are we doing this for? And if you think that that's gonna pass as a bridge, like, we can't work here anymore. You know what I mean? I'm just talking from my experience. Yeah. I find it challenging to navigate human relations in collaborative efforts, and so.
No, but I think that if you're, you know, I was fortunate to work as a music producer and produced a ton of artists over the time.
Yeah.
So, you know, like, you kind of understand that the job is to guide people as well. You know, like, they can be more experienced, more talented than you are, but at the end of the day, if they're trusting you to, you know, to say the words, let's make a collab together, then I feel like, ego should be off the plate and just have the mentality that we will do our best to make the best of this track.
For sure.
So like I at least to me, like if I step into those shoes, like I won't take personally a comment. Like I would say like, okay, maybe his taste is different, but I understand. I'll do my best to accommodate both of our tastes. If that, yeah.
No, it makes sense. And your background in that, in producing other artists and bands, that you've probably, had practice in trying to soften these punches of critiques.
Yeah.
But I want to say on the side that I think it's kind of lame that we have to live in a world where you have to be so like fragile with everyone. And look, I myself am a fragile artist. All right, I can be a sensitive and all that, but in my experience, I've been like ghosted so many times on some collaborative effort or something because like someone didn't like what I said. But this stuff weighs on me because like I want to work with more people, but I'm kind of like a frightened turtle, like popping back into my shell. Like I'll just do my own thing, because y'all seem to not want to do like a real collab.
But yeah, I mean, I understand you, to be honest. And if someone asks me to collab, I'm always nervous to say yes because I know that I'm that I demand a lot of myself, and like I don't ever want to be annoying to someone else because of my perfectionism. So I totally relate to that, man. And probably I haven't asked anybody for a collab in a while because exactly of that mindset, which is funny listening to you as well. But I guess it kind of comes with the territory.
Yeah, it does. And it's like I said, it's nice to throw some stuff out there, and it seems like you feel the same way, and that's nice. Because I feel somewhat alone and isolated in some of my perceptions and thoughts of the world and people, and I realize we're more similar in a lot of ways when you kind of just talk to people. And that's kind of a point of this show too, to like talk to other musical creators and hear our differences and our similarities. And this is kind of my collaborative effort here to being more human with people.
I mean, man, when you spend, a year in Submit Hub and you're just beginning, it's very harsh for you. So I guess you kind of grow with it, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, criticism is good. It can be good. Learning from your failures, realizing your shortcomings, taking the blinders off, like having your feet on the ground, knowing your strengths, knowing your weaknesses, like trying to improve upon this stuff in a realistic manner. Like that's how you grow. That's how you get better. As a producer, as an artist, I've spent a lot of my time, in earlier years being afraid of critique, like not wanting to show anyone anything, or I'll just do it myself because I don't want to be told it's bad or whatever. And I probably suffered from that, you know what I mean? And taken me longer to get to where I want musically. So anyone out there, just be real with yourself, be real with others, and just, find your strengths, keep going, keep growing.
Yeah. And release music, man, because I've talked with other people that struggle with the same thing, and I know they have a back catalog of like 100 tracks that no one will ever hear because they feel it's not good enough. But we are our own worst enemy. So
for sure,
yeah, you gotta take it with a grain of salt, I guess.
Just wrapping up on the movie score thing, I wanted to ask you, some of the movie scores or even game scores that have hit a nerve with you in your life.
Oh man, there's a ton. Video games, Zelda is definitely
it's a jam.
Oh yeah, like exactly. Like it's beautiful. I barely play any games anymore, but they dropped they shadow dropped this remake of a game called Oblivion.
Oh, okay.
So like if there are any Skyrim fans, like this was the game before that, and man, the soundtrack. I wouldn't say it's a masterpiece, but it's beautiful, and it's bringing out many memories. So I think it's doing a great job. But Zelda is one that's is just fantastic. Like there's so many classics in there. With movies, oh my god, man! Like Hans Zimmer, like that guy's is just a beast. The Interstellar score.
Oh, of course.
Wow.
Who Zimmer, uses Guthrie Govan as his player, and he himself knows that he is like the best in the world. And if Hans Zimmer, like I heard Hans Zimmer say that after I had thought this for years, I'm like, I knew I wasn't crazy. So
Zimmer
knows.
If Hans Zimmer approved, exactly, exactly.
Yeah,
like,
Interstellar, man. Whew.
Yeah, and like going back to like John Carpenter as well. Like,
of course,
there's so many. Honestly, there's so many. It's impossible.
Who would be your favorite composer if you had to say one? Movie composer.
I would probably say Hans Zimmer, just because he's done so many of the movies that I love.
Yeah.
But like on a synthwave level, John Carpenter is kind of like the cliche. Like he has a ton of the sounds.
Oh, I'm a JC fan for life. So totally different. Like his vibe. His vibe is kind of like your setup. In a way, like when they were scoring, like these like DAW-less rigs of his Prophet and some other things, and kind of scoring that way, but just totally different spectrum than Zimmer, and even further from someone like John Williams. But like to me, it's like I don't want to live in a world without John Williams or John Carpenter's movie scores.
Yeah, absolutely. It's and the beautiful thing about music is that it's all about emotion, right? So like depending on what state you're in at the current time, like one will resonate more than the other. So I guess that's why it's so hard. I guess Zimmer is the more classical one. Like if you close your eyes and you try to imagine a score, like Zimmer is the definition of that. But John Carpenter has that vibe. He has that thing. Those would be probably my two picks. But I guess it just depends on the mood and the feeling and the week and the stress at the moment.
Of course, and kind of just breaching on those, because I love both those composers. The John Carpenter thing. I mean, you talk about like your limitations maybe being your advantage. And like the Halloween theme is one of the top movie themes of all things ever, and it's just some simple little thing. Just because he was like, oh, my dad would taught me 5/4 time on some bongos when I was a kid, and it's like man. How many like IG videos of someone who can barely play piano hitting that on like Halloween, and just. That's also something I've learned along the way in life, that a lot of things that people like, things that people can play. Do you know what I mean? You know why like Enter Sandman's the biggest Metallica song? Because that's a really easy riff to play. And I'm not knocking it, because that's a freaking awesome song. And even though it is their biggest hit and whatever, you hear it all the time, like I don't freaking care. And my 2-year-old daughter loves that song. And it's you go into Guitar Center, you hear these major songs that someone's playing guitar, and you realize like it's because someone can play it and they feel connected to it, and not like, oh, that's beyond me, and that's too much over my head, or I don't relate to that. And so less is more, and it is the melody and the simple things that matter. Too many ingredients, kind of muddies up the waters.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's literally my mentality. Trying to do something that, well, I mean, other people can play or sing along. I mean, if you record a guitar solo that someone else can actually sing, like that's a huge win.
Yeah.
because it's memorable. And at the end of the day, I rather be memorable than just be, an insane beast. I wish I could be both, but I learned to go with the first one, and at least do my best to kind of make melodies that people can kind of remember or resonate with you.
For sure. And
but yeah, I agree. Like,
Eddie Van Halen, though, like, we're talking about humming solos, if that's a memorable solo. Like, the dude may be a ripper or whatever, but like, I find myself like humming most of his solos when I'm listening, like whatever, like most of the parts, maybe not some like tapping thing, but it's a point of like, hey, I'm like, I remember these solos that may seem like it's just flashy things, but it's like, dude knew what he was doing.
Yeah, let's just take Beat It, for example.
Oh, yeah. I mean, which...
It's hard to sing, but you know it. Like, it has parts that you will say, like, oh, yeah.
Of course. And, that's what music's about, or at least that's what some music's about. It's hard to wrap up music and art, and
yeah.
What we're talking about, being simple, less is more, not overcomplicating it. I always struggle trying to find this middle ground of sure, tastes of change and maybe attention spans, all this different thing, but like my benchmark for music is Thriller, Michael Jackson's Thriller, because everyone liked that, give or take. Like the Globe had decided we all like this album and these songs, and it's like, yeah, they're catchy and they're memorable, but that's sophisticated at the same time. It's Quincy Jones, man. Like I know that album in and out, and it's like the chords, the jazziness, like the arrangements. It's like sophisticated, like the smartest person to like maybe a simpler person. We're all over that, listening to that album, and I'm like, how do you do that? That's
genius. Yeah. No, man, it's yeah. It's yeah.
I know, right? You could, what are the words? Like, it's just kind of like, I don't know.
Exactly.
Because that's my goal in life, to make the world a better place, to bring people together. Like, how can I make something that a lot of people are going to like? And I'm not saying that I'm doing it or I've achieved that, but it's always inside me to I kind of believe in the Bill and Ted movies of like, they saved the world with their music, man.
Nice one. Yeah.
So, I believe we can.
That's the ultimate goal.
Yeah, I believe we can.
I believe it too, man. And at least that's the motor behind everything.
Andre, I wanted to thank you for coming here and sharing your life so far's journey with me and the listeners to the great and powerful Outrunner. I salute you, sir.
Thanks, James. Thank you for the space. Thank you for bearing with my, rambling and half-answered questions.
Oh, the rambles were two-way, my friend. Two-way street on the rambles. So forgive us, listeners. Forgive us.
Yeah, I'm so sorry, but appreciate the time, man. It's a huge honor, and yeah.
For sure, man.
Thank you, man.
We'll see you around, buddy.
Yeah, brother. Take care.
Thanks for listening to Synthwave Sit Downs. Subscribe and stay tuned for the next one.